And now on Sydney Weekend, cheers with Ben Malouf. Thanks to firstvintage.com.au.
Ben Malouf, good afternoon.
Dan, great to be back in the studio.
Yeah, you've been overseas.
Oh, it's a terribly tough life, Dan, but somebody has to do it. Might as well be me, I reckon.
Now, when we spoke last week via the phone, you were going to find out for us about Stelvins. Now, I didn't know what a Stelvin was.
Yeah, so Stelvin's a really interesting one. It is a screw cap on the top of the wine, but it is actually a brand of screw cap. So it's become so popular in the same way as Band-Aids aren't actually a product. They're a brand. It's the elastoplast you put over a cut, but everybody refers to them as Band-Aids. Stelvin is actually a brand of screw cap that is so popular that it's pretty much in the vernacular in the industry these days.
Why did we go to Stelvins? Why did we move away from corks?
There was a couple of driving forces behind it. I mean, the development of the Stelvin came around in about the 60s, so it's actually been around for quite a long time.
Okay, didn't know that.
Yeah, neither did I actually, Dan. I thought it was a lot more recent than that. But a cork shortage really brought it on. So cork started to get particularly expensive, and they were looking for alternatives to be able to roll out across the industry. Stelvin was a great solution, and also we've talked a couple of times about cork expanding and contracting.
Yeah, deteriorating, that's right.
Absolutely. So under a screw cap, there's no air getting in, there's no air getting out. We can preserve the wine pretty much impeccably.
Okay, what are they made? Is it aluminium?
Yeah, it's an aluminium screw cap.
So it won't corrode?
Absolutely. So, yeah, you could put that down for, 10, 20, 50 years and you won't have an issue. I guess the only thing with Stelvin, though, is they don't actually know how it is going to affect wines that are meant to be aged for 20, 30, 40 years.
Oh, of course.
Because wines haven't been sitting under Stelvin for that period of time. So, look, they have a hypothesis. They think that they can work it out. For your everyday drinkers, though, Stelvin is the only way to go.
Okay, we always talk about wine, but it's really cheers, the segment, so we can talk about all types. An email for this week from Joy. She says, I have a bottle of Pimm's in the cupboard. What can I do with it? What's a nice summer cocktail she can make with Pimm's for Joy?
Pimm's is a great summer drink. What a great thing to do on a hot summer afternoon like today. You go get a big jug, Dan. You get some Pimm's, a little bit some strawberries, some orange, some cucumber, some mint, and of course a little bit of lemonade just to top it off. And I can assure you, a couple of jugs of that, you will be particularly merry.
Okay. What's it called? That's just how you drink Pimm's, is it?
You know what? It's a great cocktail. You could make any cocktail out of Pimm's, really, and you can tailor it to your own taste. But it goes really, really nicely with fruit, and I think that mint just really brings out the flavours.
You just reminded me. I was at lunch during the week, and somebody was talking about a cocktail they'd had. It was whiskey and dry ginger wine. Stone's dry ginger wine.
I love Stone's.
And whiskey.
Yeah.
Look, that's an interesting combination.
It sounds like an interesting combination. It's like food at the moment. Cocktails, it's this gastronomy that is just absolutely the melding of flavours, and the things that you can do with cocktails these days is just exceptional.
Joy also says she has a friend coming for lunch at Christmas, wants the name of a good Riesling. It's her girlfriend's favourite. What's a good Australian Riesling?
I like Joy's girlfriend because I love Riesling. And Riesling sometimes gets a really bad rap because a lot of the time when you speak to people, when they think of Riesling, they think of what your grandmother used to drink, that really sickly...
It was either Riesling or Moselle in those days.
Exactly right, and it's just that sickly sweet. But Riesling you can get these beautiful, fresh, crisp, dry Rieslings that I love to drink. The one that I'm drinking at the moment is called Riley's Watervale Riesling. It's from the Clare Valley down in South Australia. And, like we were saying before, it's crisp, it's dry, it's fresh. And on a day like today, it would be particularly refreshing.
Terrific. You're good at this. There's a debate last week. I'm going to tell everybody I went to a hungy last week after the program. It was outstanding. My next door neighbours had a hungy. And we were debating whether or not you can drink beer that's been on ice and then goes warm. Like the next day you go out to the esky and it's just sitting there in water. Can you put it back in the fridge, get it chilled again and drink it?
Did you have any money on this, Dan?
I didn't, no. But I said I'd ask you this week.
No, look, I spoke to a brewer when I first started working in the liquor industry, and he said, Ben, the best time to drink beer is when it's straight off the production line. He said, what is going to taint your beer more than anything is the aging of the beer, as opposed to the putting of it, making it cold and then turning it hot again. Yeah. So, look, It's not an ideal way to serve your beer, but you're not going to have a problem with it. It's not going to deteriorate to a point where you can't drink it, and it'll be fine to whack back in the fridge.
Okay, and finally, someone told me once Peroni that we drink here is actually brewed at Lakemba, I think, or Lidcombe.
Yeah, it's not
True or false?
It's not brewed at. It's not brewed in Lakemba or Lidcombe, but it is brewed on the Central Coast here in New South Wales. So what happens with beers is that companies get licensing rights to brew them over in Australia. So it's not just Peroni. It's Heineken. It's Stella. It's
Yeah, that's right. There's all these imported beers that weren't imported at all. They're made here in New South Wales.
Exactly right. So what's happened in the industry is you'll start to see what they call parallel imported product, which is the original product from back in Little Italy. But look, the ones that are made for your day-to-day consumption at your big bottle shops will be brewed right here in New South Wales.
So, can I get imported beers here?
You can. They are what's called, we were talking about it before, parallel imported, and you're generally going to find them at your more independent retailers. So go down to your local bottle shop, have a chat to your retailer and say, listen, I want the traditional, the original Peroni, Stella, whatever it is that you might like, because you can actually get your hands on them. I get them in our shops from time to time, you know, for customers that like.
Do you pay more for the actual imported European beers?
It depends. You know, you would think that you would, but what happens is that they bring them in vast quantities, and it might be, you know, sometimes it's as simple as they were using them at the Hong Kong races and they had 20 container loads left over and they end up down here in Australia.
That same person was telling me that those beers, if they have something in them, the high-end premium beers, that if they go warm, you can't drink them again when they're cold.
I don't know where they got their information wrong, but look, I've never had that issue and I've never come across it being a big issue. Yeah, people have their things about the way that they like to drink products. I've never had an education that has suggested that you cannot put beer into a fridge, take it out and put it back in later on.
Okay, Benny, well done. It's great to have you back in the studio with us. Welcome back, and we'll be back again next week.
Thanks, Dan. Have a great week.